The Dallas Stars are one of the premier clubs in the NHL, boasting talent throughout the lineup, an elite goaltender, and all the regular season accomplishments a team could ask for. With a class of young players, star veterans, and an aura around the franchise that they will be the ones to dominate the Western Conference for years to come, the only real question that the Stars have to answer is, when is that going to translate to postseason success?
I admit it. Last year was rough.
The Stars were one of the best teams in the NHL last year, finishing the season with 113 points as the best team in the Western Conference. But that was no respite for the Stars when it came to their first round matchup against the then-defending Stanley Cup champion Vegas Golden Knights. Bolstered by a deadline of acquisitions both via trade and via magical healing from the LTIR, the Knights really took it to the best team in the Western Conference, pushing the series to 7 games, with every game being decided by 2 or fewer goals. In that final Game 7, it was Dallas who prevailed on the back of a stellar 22-save win by Jake Ottinger and Radek Vax's game-winning goal. That set up a matchup in the Western Conference semifinals with the Colorado Avalanche, another who battled Dallas hard for 6 games. While these games were a bit more wide open than the Vegas series, with Dallas taking the Avs' shoddy goaltending apart in games 2, 3, and 4, down the stretch the Avs made the Stars work for every single win until the decisive Game 6, won on Matt Duchene's double overtime thriller. That put the Stars back into the Western Conference Finals for the second straight year. And unfortunately, like 2023, it was once again a 6-game series that went against the Dallas Stars as they fell to the Edmonton Oilers in a 6-game series. The Stars ultimately fell just short of the goal thanks to an untimely slump of their power play and just a general scoring slump from their star players. Pete DeBoer returns behind the bench at Dallas for the 3rd year, and there's not much more you can say about Pete DeBoer. The guy is known as a guy who could get you great regular season success, deep playoff runs, but just can't quite get you to the promised land. People act like this guy's never made it all the way to the finals. He's actually done it twice with the New Jersey Devils and with the San Jose Sharks, but now 4 straight playoff appearances have ended with him losing in the conference finals with Vegas and with Dallas. The concern's going to be how much longer before his message grows stale and things begin to peter out in Dallas. It's happened in San Jose, it happened in Vegas. It seems almost inevitable it'll happen in Dallas unless they claim the Stanley Cup.
You're a star, you're on top. Somebody bring you some hair.
You should kill yourself.
You have to put their young star forward Jason Robertson as the best player on the Dallas Stars right now. Their leading point scorer from last year, Robertson just put up a very nice 29-goal, 80-point season as one of the best playmakers and puck distributors in the NHL. Still in his prime at age 25, Robertson is going to be a leader of the Stars team for years to come, who's already shown he has the talent to be a 40-goal, 100-point player in this league. The next step is just doing it consistently.
Oh, this guy again.
Robertson will be centered on that top line by Rope Hintz, another talented young scorer on Dallas's lineup who doesn't quite have the punch of Robertson. He's more of a 60-70 point player, but he's much more responsible and adept at a two-way game than Robertson has shown to be yet. But he's the elder statesman on that line at age 28. Wyatt Johnson is just a puppy at 21, who scored 30 goals and 65 points last year and is looking to continue to ascend with more experience. On the second line, Mason Marchman picked up all of his father's nastiness, but added a dash of scoring ability. He'll be good for 40 or 50 points this year, especially when he's being centered by Matt Duchene, a guy who was in serious jeopardy of becoming a journeyman early in his career, but now seems to have settled down in Dallas and found a nice home for himself in their top 6. Rounding out that top 6 is Tyler Seguin, one of the better scorers if and when he's healthy. That's been the problem over the last few years, missing time with injuries, but when that dude is healthy, he is one of the most consistent scorers in the NHL. Captain, I say with air quotes, Jamie Benn leads the third line. He's a pretty good scorer and two-way player, and if it wasn't for the fact that he was always out there trying to injure other players, I think most NHL fans would respect him a great deal. But alas, that's not the life he chose. So, fuck Jamie Benn. His center, Maverick Bourque, is set to get his first major look in the NHL at age 23, a very speedy young center that'll serve him great when he's having to skate away from Jamie Benn as he tries to bite his head off. And then finally on that third line, the darling of analytics nerds and Stars fans alike, Logan Stankoven, who put up an impressive 14 points in 24 games last year. To demonstrate how loaded this lineup is, they have Evgeny Dadonov playing on the fourth line, a guy who's good for 20-30 points a year and is still a pretty skilled winger even at age 36, down on the fourth line. He'll be joined down there by Colin Blackwell, who's just a pure grinder out there, and the man with the dopest name on the team, Sam Steele. who's just trying to find a home and consistency for his game. But lest you think the Stars' bevy of talent up front means that they're a bit weak on the back end, that is not the case. Their top pairing is led by Miro Heiskanen, probably the best pure defensive defenseman in the entire NHL right now, but he also put up 50 points last year, so it's not like he's a slouch in the offensive end of the ice either. But joining him on that top line is one of the best young defensemen in the NHL, Thomas Harley, a great smooth skating, puck-moving transition defenseman who's a perfect complement to Heiskanen. He was due a new contract over the offseason, and since we've seen a bunch of young players getting to ridiculously long overpaid extensions based on potential, and Harley is actually already a really good NHL defenseman, I can only assume that he'll get into a monster deal. Unfortunately for Thomas, life is not fair, and he only got a 2-year, $8 million extension. Seriously, Dallas, I don't care how tight your cap situation is, you should make room and lock up this guy long-term right now, because in 2 years' time, you're going to be lucky to get him extended for an $8 million a year cap hit. On the second pairing, Matt Dumba has lost a lot of that edge he brought in Minnesota and is now just kind of a journeyman all-around defenseman. He can eat up big minutes for you, sure, but he's not great defensively, and his offensive production has been kind of substandard the last few years. His other partner, defensive defenseman Ilya Lyubushkin, is one of the most puzzling signings the Stars made this offseason. The guy is a pure defensive defenseman with absolutely no strong underlying analytics, so locking up for a 3-year deal, even if the cap hit's not that terrible, just does not make any sense. I guess they're hoping maybe he can be a bounce-back candidate, but for a team that's supposed to be all in, I would not take the risk of having this guy on my top 4. Adding to that confusion is the fact that they just locked up Esa Lindell for a 5-year, $26 million contract. Yeah, you can do that, but you can't lock up Thomas Harley to a long-term extension. Make it make sense. I mean, Lindell is a very good middle pair defenseman to be sure, and he's probably getting shortchanged being on the second pair to start the season. And I'm not saying that the contract is horrible for him. In a vacuum, it makes sense. But is it really worth taking the risk that your young 23-year-old defenseman might price himself out of your organization in a few years? But Lindell is back, and he'll be joined on that bottom pairing by Nils Lundqvist, a young puck-moving defenseman with a lot of upside. In net for the Stars, it's the Otter once again. Jake Ottinger returns as one of the 10 best goaltenders in the NHL, and he is certainly getting paid as such. Otter's one of those weird goalies who plays either much better or worse in the playoffs than he does in the regular season. Last year, he had a .913 save percentage in the playoffs, but only a .905 save percentage during the regular season, his lowest of his career. He'll be backed up in net by Casey DeSmith, who Casey DeSucks.
Britta's in this?
Did the Dallas Stars do anything of note in the offseason? The answer is no, but when you have a core that is so star-studded and solid as theirs, you don't really need to make any big additions. One thing they did do is use that first-round pick, 29th overall, to select Emil Hemming, who will now enter the Stars factory of turning prospects into elite defensemen. So we'll see you in the show in a few years, Emil.
That's not bad.
In case you couldn't tell, I am a massive Thomas Harley stan. I think he's one of the ascending young defensemen in the NHL. He's already at an all-star level in my opinion, and the fact that he didn't get paid when we saw so many mediocre forwards get the bag is nuts. For context, last year, his first full year in the NHL, he had 40 points and was a 55% Corsi 4 player. That is ridiculous for a young defenseman, and I know it's only 1 year of productivity, but I just really love Thomas Harley's game, and I think he's going to be an incredible player in this league.
The Gambletron 2000 says the winner is Cincinnati by 200 points. Why, you worthless hunk of junk?
The Stars are making the playoffs, so that much is certain. It would take a Herculean collapse for them to miss the playoffs entirely. The question is going to be whether or not they can make it to the final once again, and if they do, whether they can win the whole damn thing. I personally think that they can. Among the top tier teams in the West, the Oilers, the Canucks, I think the Stars have the best goaltending and the most complete roster top to bottom. The big question is, of course, going to be behind the bench.
I root against the Stars specifically because of Jamie Benn. His response after getting suspended in 23 for cross-checking Stone on the back of the head was absolutely disgraceful.
Such high expectations, only to probably lose in the conference finals in 6 games.
I'm just angry that they never could do it for Pavelski.